Well, Leo McGuinn joins us now in studio to take a look at how this story is being reported in the international press. Leo, let's start with how papers in Israel are seeing things this morning.
Yeah, as you say, Eve, we're going to start with the Israeli press this morning and the Jerusalem Post, to be exact. They have the headline, Israel takes cover amidst that barrage of missiles, that near 200 missiles. They also carry the message from the IDF vowing to strike back. If we look inside the paper, they have this fairly strong analysis piece this morning. They say Israel must respond to the attack. The writer goes on to tell us that Iran has assumed for too long that it can wreak havoc without retribution, but that needs to change. Iran's regime assumes it can send millions of Israelis into shelters, into hiding, and that life in Tehran will continue as normal. So this piece urging for a response, but what could that response be? Well, Ynet, which is one of Israel's biggest news websites, have this reporting that Israel is threatening direct strikes on Iran's nuclear or oil facilities. Iran had alerted regional Arab officials of its plan to launch the missile barrage ahead of it, which in turn prompted Israel to send a clear message saying it would respond to any attack on its territory, regardless of the scale or casualties. Haaretz, which is a publication that's often been critical of the government and Benjamin Netanyahu. They say that Iran's firing on Israel violated a strategic principle. Without Nasrallah, the question remains, what will happen to the resistance following the resounding collapse of the cornerstone on which it was built?
So that's the reaction, Leo, from Israel. What about over in Iran and indeed the wider Middle East?
Well, this is the Tehran Times, which is a newspaper that has close ties to the government. I would say a pretty clear, if not ominous, message on their front page this morning. We're ready, is all it reads, with the follow-up. Crushing response will ensue should Israel dare to commit further acts of malevolence. They explained that the missiles fired yesterday were intended to avenge the deaths of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. Iran Daily have a pretty similar tone on their front page, saying that Israel will face crushing new strikes if they are to respond. The headline on Al Akbar, which is a Lebanese daily which has links to Hezbollah, is shock after euphoria. They rejoice in a blow dealt to Israel while accusing the United States of seeking to destroy Hezbollah. They say they want to destroy it as a military, political, civil and social institution in order to remove them from Lebanon for good. Staying in Lebanon, where, of course, an Israeli ground offensive got underway yesterday, L'Orient Le Jour evokes a week of all dangers, at the end of which nothing is resolved. They also have this piece warning that Iran is playing with fire at the risk of burning the entire region. I'll finish with the Middle East Eye, which is a UK-based publication reported to be state-funded by Qatar. They say that the chaos Israel is sowing across the Middle East could come back to haunt it. Rage and hate speech have reached psychotic levels in Israel. They say the desire for vengeance directed against the people of Gaza has swiftly found a new target, the people of Lebanon, perhaps now the people of Iran as well.
And outside of the Middle East, Leo, are any of the international papers offering different analysis on the situation?
Yeah, of course. This is a global story. It's on the front page of nearly every newspaper. If we look at the UK, it is on the front page of every single newspaper, whether that be tabloid or broadsheet. The Independent sum it up quite succinctly in 3 short sentences. Israel invades, Iran retaliates, the whole world looks on in horror. The Times go for something just as effective. Middle East erupts. Well, let's look inside the Times for further analysis, and they have this piece. They say that Iran had no choice but to strike Israel. Nasrallah's killing had shattered the air of invincibility around Hezbollah, leaving Tehran exposed. Without Hezbollah as insurance, Iran's regime saw itself staring down existential threat, and with nothing left to lose, they lashed out. The Guardian tell us that this latest attack signals that regional conflict has reignited. They go on to say Israel's war of destruction against Hamas and then Hezbollah are only going to add urgency to arguments from some Iranians that they need nuclear weapons in order to keep the country safe and powerful. Interestingly, if we look at the US, there's not been a huge amount of analysis coming from the US press so far, perhaps because of the debate that took place last night. But the Washington Post do tell us that the White House is vowing consequences for Iran's attack. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the strikes represented a significant escalation. The spiralling violence threatens to undermine one of Joe Biden's chief foreign policy goals to prevent all-out war in the Middle East. I'll finish with this analysis piece from the New York Times as Israel weighs up retaliation. According to security officials, Israel has a freer hand to respond forcefully than it did in April, when its retaliation for the previous strikes was largely symbolic. In April, Israel were worried that issuing too intense of a response would prompt Iran to order its proxy militias, particularly Hezbollah, to retaliate extensively. But after killing many Hezbollah leaders over the last few weeks, Israel has stripped Iran of much of its deterrence against a wider Israeli attack. So therefore, will feel like they have freedom to hit back in much stronger terms.
OK, interesting insight. Leo, thanks a lot for that look at the international papers.